What do you think about today's proceedings?
Lori has been pretty clear all along, so it would be a pretty rapid departure from what she's wanted to do, which is get her trial done. So I believe she's probably sick. She of course loves the drama, so there's probably a degree of height in that. But she's if she, I would suspect she's pretty sick. And whether she takes that step back and gets counsel like she could, I don't know. But it's very clear to me the judge has lost his patience with this issue.
Yeah, I think he's kind of stuck
Yeah.
because this jury has come back for the second day in a row. And if Wednesday comes and she still can't proceed, do you ask them to come back again the next day, or do you have to get a whole new pool?
Well, I will tell you, you're right, Nate, you're right, that he is in a difficult spot because if he, at what point do they blame one side or the other, right? And pretty quickly, if she's the one sitting there in a wheelchair, she's the one that may get the blame. So it may be that the judge has no choice but to continue this trial. I do wonder from her comments, and this is rank speculation, but is he worried that she is doing it to try to delay it, thinking she'll get a new judge? Which his comments made me wonder whether that was what was going on.
Right. Before he decided to proceed explaining, he said, I want to, make sure you understand a few things. One, I am the trial judge on this case.
Yeah.
Whether we have the trial this week or it gets continued or whatever, it will be me. I think trying to make it clear to her that because he just filed a bunch of motions against her or responded to a bunch of her motions saying denied. So whether he thought she might be faking or using this as a ploy to push it off, he made it clear, I'm going to be on this. And he also gave her the option to let her counsel, her advisory counsel, pick the jury without her or just have her sit there and not say a word. Yet she said, no, I don't want to do that.
Right. I mean, this it's classic Lori. She wants it to be about her. And it's very, I think if she's sick and under the weather, she may realize she's not her own best advocate, and but she doesn't want to take advantage of what she does have. So I think if she shows up on Wednesday and acts like she's really sick or makes a really good record, the judge is going to be in a tough spot with trying to keep that jury around.
What does this do to the prosecutor when you're planning out your case and your schedule of witnesses, especially those who are flying in, and you've got 22 on the list and you've got your opening statement? What does this do in as you're a prosecutor in your mind thinking about this? What does it do?
Yeah. You it's that you're focused, you're ready, your adrenaline's flowing, you're really ready to go. And then when something happens last minute, it takes you a bit to pivot. You get pretty tired, that adrenaline flows down, you're spent for a little while. And then you get frustrated for your victims and your witnesses, right? Because again, not about you. And so you get pretty tired yourself. But once you get your energy back, you work really hard to get a quick court date, get it on there for your victims, your witnesses, and get it going. So this prosecutor on Lori's case is really experienced. She'll have that quick sort of decompress, adrenaline gone, and then she'll regroup and be ready if that happens.
A lot of people commenting, can't the judge force her to stay in the courtroom?
Yes, oh, absolutely. The judge can force her to stay, or he can tell her. I mean, there's a record that needs to be tried, put together. I've done similar motions called motions for courtroom decorum. I think I've talked about that before, where you say, Judge, this is a certain, please give them warnings. There's a certain level of warnings that have to happen. There's a couple Supreme Court cases out there on that issue. And so I suspect the judge will give her warnings, make her be there. I mean, they can even bind and gag somebody. That's not going to happen to Lori Vallow, but the courts if they lay the right foundation, they give the right warnings, they give the chance after chance after chance. There's the whole range of options available to a judge. everything from trying absentia, meaning, the person's in another room, either listening by, teleprompter or WebEx, to make them sit there and bind and gang them. So he's got a ton of options. I doubt Lori will let it get that far. But the judge could do a lot of things. And you see him, each one of these little things, and I think you called it baby steps the other day, that's spot on. He's taking those incremental baby steps to say, look, I'm giving you another chance. I'm giving you another chance. One example is where Lori said, are you going to drag me out of the cell and make me come? And he's like, yes, you're going to be at your trial. Right. So that's an example of him building a good record and giving her extra chances. He's really laying the foundation to, you're getting this done, and you're going to be here voluntarily or involuntarily.
Is there anything out of this trial you're hoping to learn, Rachel? Anything, you've covered the Idaho one personally, you were there, you followed the other ones. Anything you're hoping to get out of this one?
I would love to see more about, love to see how evidence related to Lori's participation in the planning, the conspiracy, the steps taken to kill Brandon, um, is presented by somebody else, Trina. She's going to go way deeper than we needed to in Idaho. I'll be very interested to see how that evidence unfolds as to Lori and how the prosecutor, Trina, puts it on. So, from the prosecutor side, I'm always interested to see how other people do things. That's an issue about Lori's direct participation in this effort to kill Brandon, will unfold in front of a jury and how they respond.
The number one question I think I'm asked about this case, why isn't Chad charged? Why isn't Melanie Pulowski charged?
You
You
know,
probably don't know the specifics, but what can you say?
yeah, I don't, well, there, in terms of Arizona's decision to charge Chad, that is straight prosecutorial decision. It is discretion of a prosecutor to make that charge. If the state does not believe there's enough to connect them to furthering a conspiracy, that the words involved are only mere words, that they aren't actions in furtherance, or that there's not words plus a few deeds, then they're not going to charge somebody. And if you have a conspiracy of all these different players, right? Some people may not have known that they were conspiring against the person, but they may not have known it was a conspiracy, even a murder. So the degree of knowledge that a person has of the ultimate goal affects the decision to charge. The degree of participation beyond mere words affects the decision to charge. And so if you don't have sort of that nice combination of words plus deeds plus actions to further, then oftentimes you choose not to charge. You can't just charge somebody because they would benefit. You can't just charge somebody who may have talked about something. You got to have the words, the intent, and the deeds. And if any of those are weak or any of those are missing, even if in your gut, it might have been there, if those things are missing, you don't charge.
But it sounds like they feel like they have enough that Lori has those words,
Mhm.
deeds, and
Yeah.
actions.
Yeah. And I think, again, in this case, as in many of her others, that iCloud, and other text communications with Alex in particular, Alex and Chad in particular, is going to be Lori's downfall. Lori's own actions, Lori's own words are what really will jam her up.
And is that the same reason why you think Melanie's not being charged?
I think it's, I have not, I was not part of the decision process. Ultimately, that's a Maricopa County
Yeah.
choice. So I don't know specifically from Maricopa County why they didn't. But if I had to guess, it's you need that combination of all three on a conspiracy case. And if any of those is weak, um, the other reason you may not charge all the co-conspirators is if you swing and miss at one, that emboldens all the others.
Mm.
So there's some real valid reasons that on a conspiracy charge, you hold it so that your evidence is tight and it meets all those pieces. And
Right.
Lori's evidence on that is tight. Like we used a lot of her motive and her intent and her words in Idaho. We didn't use them all, and we didn't have everything that Arizona now has. So she her role in this, kind of with conspiracy, another angle on how you pick who you have to go after is that sort of but for test. But for Lori Vallow's involvement, would this have happened? Alex on his own didn't just come up with this, right? So, but for Lori Vallow, there wouldn't have been an effort to kill Brandon Boudreaux. And so that makes her sort of a central person of the conspiracy who needs to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the explanation. Hopefully that answers all your questions because every night we get those questions.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
single time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those that, like, in your gut, maybe people know what they think happened in various cases. It's that classic, what your gut says and what the evidence can prove may be different things, and it's frustrating.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, Rachel?
No, no, I appreciate it. I love talking to you.
Thanks for coming on.